So the best place to find out about American Cockers is, of course, the home of Kraft's Best in Show winner in 2017, Miami. Now, Jason and Michael, where exactly can the origins of the American Cocker be traced back to?
Well, all the spaniels can share a common ancestry and were developed to accomplish different sporting, like different types of game and different manners in the way that they hunted. So from the beginning, the early, you mentioned the Mayflower, but I guess, yes, spaniels would have gone over from the very beginning. They became, in the same way over here, we got field spaniels and Springer spaniels and then Welsh Springers, cockers. So cockers would have been initially the same breed in America as they were in England, and there was a lot of imports leaving this country to go to America. And it wasn't, with their own selective breeding, they were beginning to change things a little bit. So they were creating within the cockers, within the cocker world, they were creating a fancier, smaller type of dog. And I think it's in the 40s that the breed was split. It wasn't two different breeds, it was just split by virtue of type. So dogs that looked like English cockers became English cockers, and dogs which had a slightly shorter foreface, a little bit more hair, a slightly sloping top line and a little bit more height at the withers became cockers, which of course we know as American cockers. And they've developed in two different paths since then, because English cockers to a degree have changed from those English cockers of the 40s, and American cockers have changed from that division from those early American cockers to what we see today.
And I should add as well, growing up in the US, as an American, what we know as the Cocker Spaniel is one of these. So what the British call Cocker Spaniels, we call in the States an English Cocker. And around the same time that Mike's talking about, the 40s, 50s, 60s, there was a surge of popularity. These guys were the most popular breed with the AKC in terms of registrations. They were as common as, I guess, here the English Cocker is. This was the breed everybody wanted. They were bred in large numbers, and I guess like any breed that goes through that sort of surge of popularity, there was a downside as well, and issues with temperament problems and everything else. But these guys in the States are really popular, really well known, and it's a really typical breed to see as pets.
But Mike spoke about that sort of divergence of type. Why did those two types emerge?
Well, I guess, as Mike said, with the different spaniels being sort of segregated depending on what particular function games people wanted, American Cockers were smaller, slightly different in type, and perhaps it was just as superficial as the size and the amount of coat, among other things. But
yeah, can I just say that it wasn't where the spaniels separated early on from a functional point of view. I think when American cockers and English cockers split in America, I think it was a little bit more to do with the fanciers who were showing. So I think it was, as Jason said, smaller, fancier, more coat, but it wasn't quite so much to do with their working ability and the fact that because I think that today both breeds are still worked, and both breeds have a similar ability as far as the type of bird they would bring back and the way that they hunt. So I think it was mostly to do with the show ring.
So what was it that these particular breeds, cockers, American cockers, were bred for initially?
They're flushing spaniels. They're meant to flush game in various types of cover, retrieve when necessary.
And they're supposed to obviously retrieve a smaller bird, like woodcock, for instance, is a tiny little bird. And so when American cockers came over and were introduced into the gun dog group, there was some resentment, as it were, from some of the old-time gun dog people who said they shouldn't be in the gun dog group. And then, of course, more recently, we heard these same criticisms because Jason was showing a beautifully groomed American cocker at Crufts. Now, this is the thing. It's my belief that if you take a show cocker and a show American cocker, more often than not, American cockers have got more working ability. I'm not talking about the working cockers that have been bred for decades just to work. So if you just take these two as an example, American cockers in the States, in England, there's been lots and lots and lots of cases where they've been excellent little working dogs, little gun dogs. And of course, when they were worked, you would take the coat off. Like Irish Water Spaniels are absolutely fantastic dual-purpose gun dogs. The same ones are shown as are worked. But you wouldn't, if you were hard-working, an Irish Water Spaniel, you would cut the coat down. And so everybody saw those images with Jason and Miami at Crufts with this pristine black and white coat. And it was like, oh, that's not a gun dog, that's not a gun dog. Well, of course, he's not a gun dog. He's not, we don't work our dogs. But if we did, he wouldn't look like that. So
but
it
just
was,
in the same way as,
stupid.
the Old English sheepdog would not be as pristine as he was on the night if he was, doing the job he was bred for. So I think maybe there's even some misconception by the public because the name is Gun Dog Group. They imagine that all the dogs in the group are actually working gun dogs, and some of them are, but that's not, as you know, always the case. And we're not hunters, as Mike said. We don't hunt our dogs necessarily, but we still try to breed for the same qualities in temperament and drive and all of the things that could make a successful gun dog, even though we choose not to do it.
A few years ago, we showed a wonderful little bitch called Afterglow Shake Wiggle Wiggle to Best of Breed at Crufts in a very large entry. She was, I think it was before we had 4 placements, but she was shortlisted in a strong gun dog group. She left us having had a couple of litters to go down south to friends of ours who show and work, and became legendary as a working dog. I mean, Wiggle apparently could beat all the Labradors and Springers. She was a fantastic working dog. So, we don't work them, but we do breed with functionality in mind, that they could work.
And Jason,
sure.
you spoke briefly about temperament. They are closely related to the English cockers, as you would have known them. And the cocker is always thought of as a merry little cheerful gun dog. Is that the same in American cocker?
Yeah, absolutely. And the word merry is in the standard for the breed. I think if you could sum them up in one word, it would be just that. It would be merry. You think of a wagging tail, slashing tail all the time, always up for whatever adventure you want to go on. They have a really strong desire to do a job, to be with people, and they're always on the go.
Both breeds, American cockers and English cockers, over the years, and again, it's probably got a lot to do with like a massive boost in popularity when people start to breed a little bit indiscriminately. So over the years, this fabulous temperament, this happy-go-lucky character, sometimes, as not always been the case with every American cocker, equally with every with any breed. And so, if you're buying a puppy, you have to buy from a pet. If you at least seeing the mother, she's got to have a good temperament. And puppies of 8 weeks old should be happy and want to come to be picked up and wag their tails. All of the things that Jason was saying. So, if anything's frightened, it's or fear is a bad thing in any breed of any puppy. By the time they get to 8 weeks old, they should be happy with seeing strangers and not be backing off. So it's important as a breed feature that we're all breeding for that very, very specific, happy, merry little dog.
And you both found the breed individually, but Mike, why was it an American Cocker for you that you picked?
Well, as a kid, I used to go to the shows with a girl called Liz Buttrick, a woman called Liz Buttrick, and she would take me to the shows. She showed English Cockers and English Springers, and I shouldn't say English Cockers because the Cocker people get really crazy about it. But anyway, she showed just for the sake of. Anyway, she would take me to the shows, and we saw American Cockers were reasonably new. I mean, they'd been around for some time then, but they were still quite an unusual dog to see. Anyway, Liz liked the American Cockers, and she bought a little black and white bitch that she decided she didn't want to keep. So I think I was probably 17 or something at the time. I swapped a car that my dad had bought me that cost, I don't know, 100 quid or something like that, fell to bits, something happened with the engine. Her husband could always fix cars. So I swapped the car for that American Cocker bitch. And she was the grandmother of my first champion, a dog called Sultan of Swing. So it's quite an early. And of course the American influence was enormous. They were based on very famous Dreamridge lines from the States.
Well, I got my first American Cocker a little bit earlier than Mike. I was about 6 or 7 years old, but mine was a stuffed toy. And actually there's a funny picture of me as a kid posing my stuffed American Cocker toy with a sign that says "Best in Show." So I think from an early age, I was really drawn to the look of the breed. Just like everyone who grew up in the States fell in love with Lassie the Collie. People who grew up watching the film Lady and the Tramp loved the American Cocker, and that was another aspect of the breed that really heightened their popularity. But you know, the beautiful faces, the long ears, the soft eyes, all of those things are, you know, really attractive. And I, as a kid, I had a local training class, and one of my friends showed American Cockers. I would go to shows with them as a kid, and so I was exposed to all these different breeders of American Cockers. So quite early on, I was thrown into the American Cocker scene when I started going to shows. And I also sort of grew up just at the tail end of what was probably the heyday of the breed in the US, where there were a lot of handlers, a lot of breeders, big kennels, and a lot of the top winning dogs at the shows every weekend were American Cockers, and you had all these different people competing, and there were some of the memorable show dogs of the last 20, 30, 40 years were all kind of around during that time. So I got to see a lot of, firsthand, a lot of the really legendary dogs in the US.
And obviously, seeing the legendary ones makes you want one yourself. Huh?
Yeah, I mean, it's really, I can remember as a kid seeing a lot of the famous winners and just being sort of captivated by them, and the way they look, the way they show, you know, the obvious happy temperaments, and they're a really beautiful breed visually to look at. And you know, once you are around them, you realize how nice their temperaments are as well, and they're just a nice overall family pet. The size, everything about them makes for a wonderful pet.
Mike spoke briefly about you being in the Best in Show ring with that beautifully groomed American Cocker. That must take a lot of time to get Miami looking the way he did.
Yeah, of course. I mean, somebody was saying, comparing Crufts to sort of like going to the Oscars, and obviously the way people dress when they go to the Oscars is much different than you dress when you go to Tesco. So, of course, how all the dogs looked on that moment, on that night in the Best in Show ring, of course that's going to be at their absolute best. I think most of what you see in the ring really takes place long before you ever go to the show. So Miami, for example, his routine is he gets a bath twice a week. And that's kind of it. Before the show, he has his face clipped, the back is stripped, and the feet are scissored. It's not such a lengthy process when you compare it to a standard poodle, which is another breed that we've shown. But it's just that consistency of week-to-week maintenance that allows you to, arrive at a show like Crufts and have the dog in tip-top shape. But most of that is done at home, not done the night before the show.
And Mike, you spoke briefly about the differences between the English cocker, we'll call it for now, and the American cocker. As a judge, what are you looking for in an American cocker?
Well, it's interesting really, over the years, one of my pet hates, we've just talked about being criticised for people imagining that these dogs couldn't work. Now, one of my criticisms of breeders around the world is that they've bred without that in mind. And a lot of these breeds, as Jason said before about Old English sheepdogs, they're rarely worked these days. They're pets and show dogs. In the same way that American cockers, they're not worked as much as they are pets or show dogs. But it's vital when I'm judging that I judge a dog to, award a dog at the highest level. I want to judge a dog that feels when I touch it like it could work and do a day's work. So they have to be solid. They have to have a big rib cage. They have to have a forechest. They have to have shoulders and upper arms that mean that their momentum on the move is like easy, and it means that they can tirelessly work for a long period of time. So they're the essentials. Where people get hung up on is like just a pretty face, or this sloping top line that's desirable, or the coat. But people there are some breeders that are getting it all wrong. You've got to have the essential parts of the dog right first, the size of the teeth, the temperament. All of those things are the most important. And then you can start to put on the lovely gently sloping top line, the coat, the big eyes, the beautiful face, the big plush foreface. All of those things are icing on the cake. You've just got to get the cake right first.
Yeah. And as breeders, you've obviously got to pick an American cocker. What is it for you that makes a puppy stand out? Why do you pick a puppy to take into show ring?
As the puppies are first born, obviously, particularly with party colors, the first thing we notice is the markings. So maybe, even when they're just a few days old, we're sort of trying to envision how the markings will look once they're all grown up. And a puppy like Miami was blessed with really beautiful symmetrical markings. Then as they grow and start to walk about, invariably there's a puppy that catches your eye for whatever reason. You may not even know why, but your eye keeps being drawn to one particular puppy more than another. Sometimes it's temperament, sometimes it's the way they move, sometimes it's the way their face looks. So then in the back of our mind, maybe when they're 6, 7 weeks old, we kind of think one or two might be the standouts. So then once they're 8 weeks old and they're on the table being examined for the first time, as Mike said before, we look for a dog that appears to have plenty of rib, plenty of body, and a long rib cage as well. A short rib cage is quite a big fault in any spaniel. So we try to select puppies with the longest possible rib, a slightly sloping top line, puppies that already display a forechest with a prominent sternum, sufficient bone. We start to evaluate the coat texture. It's, for all that Americans have quite a lot of coat, it's important that the texture is silky, straight to slightly wavy. It's the exact opposite of what we want in a poodle coat, for example, which is curly and profuse and voluminous. Then those are the basic structural points we start to look for. Obviously temperament, a puppy that's outgoing and confident, which they should all be, but in particular if we're selecting a puppy for the show ring, temperament's essential.
And we normally bring them out here. I remember Jason getting all wild and excited about that pup, which we've done. We've had some really good ones over the years, but and what happens is like this morning, I've had a white standard poodle puppy out. Jason was out, and Tom and I were getting crazy about her. And you can't wait for like Jason to come back so we can show him. And in the same way, I can remember Jason's, had got a couple of pups out here that we couldn't make our minds up between, and he'd got them going nicely on the lead and was, crazy about this one dog. So
I can remember in particular with Miami, something that was really special about him was that he seemed to be a combination of a lot of the dogs in his family that we had raised here and bred here. You could see bits of his mother, bits of his grandfather, bits of this uncle, so he sort of seemed to get the best of a lot of the dogs in his family. So there was a lot of hope to see how he would continue, to see how he would grow up. And he just sort of got better and better and better, and he stayed where some puppies can go through stages where they don't look so good today as they did the day before. He stayed pretty consistent, and even at his very first show when he was 6 months old, he went to the Cocker Club show, American Cocker Club show, and there was an American judge, and the entry was like over 100, and he was won the CC and was best of breed at 6 months and 2 weeks of age. So really early on,
and under an American specialist as well. That's
exactly.
Incredible.
It's really unusual for a puppy of that age of any breed to.
I mean, extraordinary, really.
So
Miami stood out from the very start for you.
Yeah, I think for all of us, and it was a really nice litter actually. One of the other brothers, a black and white male, he went to South America, and he's done really well for his owners and breeders in South America. And actually, he was shown at the American National, and he was winner's dog at the American National. So another brother, there were 3 in the litter, another brother went to the States, and he's an American champion. But there was just something about Miami, as I say, I think it was because we could see sort of his heritage, things about him that reminded us of certain dogs in his pedigree. And maybe it was a little bit nostalgic, but he always really stood out to us early on.
And Mike, when you get a puppy like that, what do you start thinking? Do you start dreaming right then?
Yes. Yes, absolutely. I mean, this is the thing. Great ones are normally great puppies. A lot of the great puppies can fall by the wayside, but it's rare for something that didn't excite you as a puppy to become a great one. I mean, it does happen, but you need to start. Normally, you need to start off with a great puppy. So, this. I mean, and interestingly, this dog, probably more than any other dog, Jason came back, when Jason came over from the States, he brought, there was a litter born in quarantine from his bitch, his party-colour bitch, CJ, and a dog from a champion dog that he'd bred in the States and brought back over with him, which actually had some of my breeding in it. But actually the combination of these animals plus some of the stuff from around the world is what went into creating Miami. And I think he is right. I think if you look back, I mean, if you will go back in the generations of that dog, there's so many fantastic, like, world-class animals. And it's what you dream of as a breeder. You're doing these combinations, hoping that you will pick up the very best features from the pedigree. And it makes it all worthwhile when it actually comes off.
And I heard another interview with you, Jason, saying that Miami had only gone to, generally speaking, specialty shows, American Cocker Club shows, before Crufts. Was there a reason you did that?
No, just his age really, and just the way the calendar fell. So Crufts was actually only his 9th ever show. So we really hadn't shown him at all. He won his title really quickly, and then sort of sat at home and grew up. He was sort of out of the puppy class. He was a champion, and I didn't feel he was ready to do anything more. So he stayed home. He, built body, built muscle, grew coat, and just waited. And then last fall, I took him to the Gundog Society of Wales, and that had been his first show in quite a while. And he won
Since Windsor in June.
Yeah, since the summer. So he won the CC Best of Breed, and then won the group.
Best in Show, yeah.
Yeah, and that was his last show for last year. And then sort of to give him a run out before Crufts, I took him to the Home Counties American Cocker Club show the week before Crufts to see how he would respond, having been out of the ring all winter. And he was best in show at the club show. And then his next stop was Crufts. So
It sounds like he's a dog that surprised you.
yeah, it really has surprised us. I think in some ways we even underestimated how good he was, and partly that was because we hadn't seen him in the ring enough, and we hadn't really sort of seen what he was capable of doing, because we hadn't put him in the situation enough times to
See
really,
what he was capable of.
yeah. And I think at Crufts everything came together in terms of his development and how he felt to the touch, how his coat looked.
The other thing as well, I wasn't there. Tom and I came back with the poodles to bring some of the dogs that we'd been showing on Friday back. So I never saw him in the ring, but what Jason said was that he was really good in his class. He was better in the challenge. He was for the best, the dog ticket. He was better in the challenge for best of breed. Then we got there in time to watch him in the group, and he showed fantastically. And Jason said it was better than. And then when he went in for best in show, it was just this. When it counted, he was stepping up a gear. So I mean, that was these are the things that. All the work and effort that goes into getting these dogs into the ring looking as good as they are, it's kind of what you dream of, because they are animals when all's said and done. And, you want them to perform at the very highest level at that moment. But that, like people, they can have an off day. So you're just praying that everything just comes together at the right time.
Yeah, and even down to the environment of Crufts. I mean, the arena at the NEC is so noisy, so loud. The lights, all the different
floor texture.
Yeah, the floor texture. It's like sensory overload for even an experienced dog. So for a young, barely 2-year-old dog who's been to a handful of shows, it's even a question of how will he even react to all of this, because even a seasoned dog could have a problem with some of it. But I think it really spoke about his
bomb-proof temperament.
Yeah, his stability and his confidence, and the fact that, as Mike said, he sort of rose to the whole occasion of it all, and was able to show like a pro, which actually belies the fact that he hasn't really been shown at all.
So, after Crufts, you said that was essentially his career in the UK. What's Miami going to do now? Have we decided yet?
Not officially. I thought we would just wait until everything settled after Crufts was over. It was a situation we didn't expect, obviously.
Did he entered at more shows throughout the year?
Yeah, he's entered at a show this weekend, actually. So we decided. Obviously, I don't think showing him in the UK is in his future.
I mean, I guess his next outing in the UK would be at the Eukanuba final, because he qualified for
perhaps. Yeah. But I don't know. We'll think about it a bit longer. I mean, we're not going to make any major decisions.
Except that he's not going to be shown in the UK.
Yeah.
And both of us, I mean, it's not like there's been an argument over it. We both absolutely agree.
So it might be that we focus on, the next generation, and maybe that's over for him, or maybe there's still some shows in Europe or maybe even the US that we can bring him out on occasion. But for now, he's just gonna relax and hang tight until we decide what his next move will be.
And it must have been a very different experience, this Best in Show, compared to 3 years ago. Ricky, on the run-up, went in as top dog all breeds. Mm-hmm. So there was a pressure and expectation.
Completely, yeah. I think as you say, with Ricky, there was an expectation because of what he had achieved already. He had been top dog all breeds. He had won the Eukanuba World Challenge. He was a dog that a lot of people were talking about as a possible favorite. So, yeah, there was pressure to, to hope and pray that everything went right, that he showed well, that, all of that added on top of the stress of just being at the dog show and showing. But with Miami, it was completely different because there was no expectation of anything, and there was no expectation from the outside because most people had never seen or heard of him. Only a few who had maybe judged him or been at the few shows where he was at.
And there weren't many of them.
Yeah, so there really was no pressure on us for any result other than the fact that we hope he showed well. So,
and he certainly did.
Yeah, and when he won Best of Breed, it was great. And as Mike said, it even shows how sort of raw he was because I even changed the lead for between the breed and the group to something completely different than I had shown him on in the breed. So in one way it was like I was
still learning really.
as we went along. So yeah, I mean, it was completely just, the group win was incredible because it was such a beautiful group and completely just caught us by surprise. And I was thinking to myself when we were doing the pictures, he really has sort of walked in, he's come up from the rails. Yeah. I think probably no one would have ever imagined that, he would have figured into the group because, as I say, no one had ever really seen him. And the fact that he was able to walk in and look like a seasoned show dog and show like he did, there was a lot of satisfaction. And it was nice not having to think about it at all beforehand. And
as a handler, that must have made your life a bit easier as well, not having that expectation, that weight of the world on you.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we'd just had a great couple of days leading up to Gun Dog Day. There was no pressure. So yeah, it was completely stress-free, and we just enjoyed the show, and it kept getting better and better and better as the week went on.
Well, the weekend certainly was great. Your partner winning the World Challenge, you winning the group, and then Best in Show. It can't have been much better.
Yeah, it was an incredible few days. It really was a great show.
And as a breeder, Mike, having a dog like this in your breeding program must be a dream come true.
Well, yeah, absolutely. I mean, we're limited to a degree with what we can breed to him because obviously we don't want to breed too closely. But we already have, this is the thing. I'm active with these American Cockers. I've betrayed them slightly because my passion is poodles.
And I do believe I did an interview with you a few years ago after Pup of the Year.
Yeah.
And you said, this is my last American Cocker.
No, it was the last one I was going to show.
Oh, okay, that was what it was. Okay.
So that was, yes, and you're right, Simon. And I did say it was the last one I was going to show. Since then, I showed Miami's mother and made her to a champion. She had a ticket before she went to Europe for a little while, and she came back and she kind of showed best for me. So I was forced into the ring. That's how I would, yeah. So anyway, but she went to 4 or 5 shows and became, it was a bit like Miami. She went to 4 or 5 shows and became a champion, and then we stopped showing her. And then Jason couldn't get to one of the shows, and I think, did I get his 3rd ticket, Miami's at Windsor?
Yeah, actually, I think we all, I handled him to his 1st ticket. Our friend Susan Crummy handled him to his 2nd ticket.
Oh, Susan's the one who won the group at Crufts with his mother, actually, Pearl.
Yeah. And then Mike handled him at Windsor for his 3rd ticket.
He that just is an utterly bomb-proof temperament. Anyone could take him in.
Yeah. But interesting, what I was going to say was, and now we've got, Jason's got Miami's half-sister, a black pitch called Dita, that she's just about to be shown. I think she's just about to come out shortly, and he's thrilled with her, and she's a beautiful little thing. And then the Crumb has got this one. He's been borrowed really for this afternoon because he's just had a bath. He looks the best of the lot of them. And this is Pearl's baby we sent her off to America to be bred to a top winning dog over there. And this is the baby he's called Brian. She's got a child called Ryan and a dog called Brian. So,
You've got a poodle called Brian and a Jason called Jason.
no.
A poodle called Jason and a
But
Jason
anyway,
called Jason.
So these two, I rarely go on Gundog Day. It's Poodle Day is the day that I go. And apart from which, I'm like the poor bugger that has to, when we've all been showing poodles and Gundog Day follows, somebody's got to bring the poodles back and wash them. So,
Well, you're the one that loves the poodles, so you've got to deal with it.
well, he loves. But the thing is, there's three of us involved with these Afterglow. Oh well, the poodles particularly, the Afterglow poodles. Because we've got Tom heavily involved with the toys, and he's showing a standard now. Actually, Jason's a bit out of it at the moment. I don't think he's got his little toy from Italy that he's working on. But all in all, Jason will continue with the Crumb to show, and I'll get a little bit involved with the process
of American Cockers.
Yes.
Now, what do you put the success down to?
I think that in the same way that somebody could have an enormous appreciation of the ballet or art or racehorses or films, I have this absolute love of great dogs, and they needn't necessarily be mine, but I can get overwhelmed when I see something that I consider to be exceptional and something that's like a work of art. And obviously, if I've been involved with the process of producing something that I consider to be great, and even better, those people whose opinion I consider enormously, consider too that they're a great one, then that's what drives me. I'm driven completely to, I want to breed nice, healthy dogs with great temperaments, but within that, I want to breed the next great one. It's always, and when we bring them out here and put them through the paces, it's not about breeding a nice one, it's about the next great one. And interestingly, I was saying before about the great ones are normally great puppies, but this puppy is really exciting. Jason's Dieter is really exciting. We've got a white standard that's going in partnership to our friend Maud in Norway, who's you could do cartwheels over. So even though this Miami dog's career's been cut short, because I think Jason thought he was going to be showing them all this year. Even before that, we're always concentrating on what's, the plans. It's like the future. And sometimes you're not even thinking about what you're going to breed in that generation. You might be thinking, well, if we breed that to that and this to this, So it's, and also I'm a person who needs to have like some sort of mental stimulus. So that's another part of this, that I'm constantly thinking about what might be a good idea.
Over the past few years, you've had a great amount of success. Top Dog, Best Stuart Crafts twice. Jason,
Top Dog 4 times.
4 times. Overall 4 times. It's quite a list.
Or is it 5? Is it 5 or 4?
I'm not sure.
I think it's 4.
Let's not get greedy. There's time. But Jason, what does Mike bring to the party at Afterglow?
Well, Mike sort of started the party at Afterglow, as I have said before. I think Mike has boundless optimism, boundless enthusiasm to try new things, and sort of a fear, or rather fearless about taking a risk or taking a chance on something that other people might think is crazy or too much effort or too much hassle. I think Mike is always someone to do whatever he thinks it takes to try and see if something might work, whether it's a breeding or selecting a potential puppy or driving a long distance or getting on a plane and taking a bitch to be bred. So I think that sort of never-ending optimism and pursuit of something really great or what might be is is definitely one of his strong points.
And Mike, Jason's strengths, what does he bring to the party at Afterglow?
Obviously, everybody knows that we were partners in the past and we're business partners now, and we always have fought. So there's never a situation ever where Jason, if I have an idea and Jason thinks it's a bad idea, he's not going to just say, oh yes, that's a lovely thing, we should do that. So, and what he's done is he's brought a lot of balance to the whole thing, because I can be at times a little bit over enthusiastic and over emotional and just over. So being able to temper me a little bit, and my, being a little bit theatrical and over emotional and sometimes making stupid decisions, he's tempered all of that. And then on top of that, of course, we already discussed the fact that when it came down to the American Cockers, he arrived with crucial parts, like crucial ingredients for the recipe for a really good cake. And then picking puppies is something that we always do between us. And, and again, I'll say to him, I don't think you've looked at that puppy properly. I think you've been hard on it, and he'll perhaps revisit it and come back and either agree or disagree. And the same way, he can do exactly the same with me. So sometimes you just need a slightly different perspective. I used to be considered a pretty good handler in my own rights years ago, but his prowess as a handler is kind of legendary. And I still am going to be in the ring, but it's a tough act to follow, because everybody, they love it, saying, oh, the dog looks better with Jason. Well, sometimes they've just got to be content with me. But there's no question of the fact that as a team, the whole thing's worked brilliantly, and we play to our strengths.
Well, thank you very much, gentlemen, for sitting down to talk to us. I'm sure the Afterglow story is going to go on for much longer. Congratulations on all the success, and hopefully we see some Miami sons and daughters in the future. Congratulations again.
Thank you.